What we're going to talk about tonight is just protecting yourself against identity theft. First of all, I just want to kind of set up what is identity theft, and then how many people does it affect, or how many people does it hurt. Identity theft, in looking for like a specific definition, everybody tailors it a little bit differently. It's easiest for me just to think it's when somebody has taken someone else's information, usually their personal information, and they're using it for their benefit, usually financially. And they want to cause a lot of harm, and they're trying to do it super secretively. I love the commercials that are on like TV, and they have the identity thief like talking in a man voice, and then it's like a little girl, or like an old lady, and then it's like a young girl. And that's really what it is. It's a crime of opportunity, and they're coming in, they're trying to get whatever they can out of you, and then they're going to slip out. Social Security fraud or theft is actually the top type of identity theft in the state of Utah. I'll talk to you a little bit about other thefts and things that happen, but in Utah, that's our biggest problem. How many people does it affect nationally? So in 2014, they started gathering some data, and they figured out that 17.6 million people had been victims of identity theft. And the Federal Trade Commission actually received 500,000 complaints in the year 2015. So there's a lot of issues, a lot of problems that are going on with identity theft. These are the top ones that I kind of wanted to touch on or make you aware of. Tax identity theft is a huge problem right now. It's because while online filing is fantastic and very easy, it's also incredibly easy for someone else to sit down, type in your information, come up with a new code, and electronically sign for you. And they'll end up getting your return sent to their house. When you go in to file your own return, you're finding the IRS is saying, we already have a return on file for you. And it was very interesting. Actually, yesterday, one of the senators from Ohio became a victim of identity theft. He went to go file his return because he hadn't done it yet. The IRS said, we already have a return on file for you. And he said, that's impossible. My accountant and I haven't turned everything in. We filed for an extension. And the people had collected his actual tax refund. Child identity theft is a huge, huge problem right now. If you don't have children of your own, maybe you have nieces or nephews, or even just friends that have children, and you can kind of clue them in here. What identity thieves are doing is they're finding out or figuring out what children's names, dates of birth, and socials are. It's a perfect crime of opportunity because these children have impeccable credit. So they're opening whatever cards they want, and then they have 18 years essentially to go in and take whatever they want from them. Children aren't finding out about it until they're going to college, trying to get an apartment, and their parents are thinking, what on earth just happened? And it's because the child's social security number was stolen a few years ago. And we'll talk to you in Utah. Through the IRIS program, they have some really good steps you can take to protect yourself as well as your children. It just takes a little bit of time to get the socials in for the children so they can be blocked and protected, but I think it's worth it. And then medical identity theft is a huge problem. People will steal your name, go in and receive treatment under your name. Sometimes they don't have health insurance, so if the hospital already has your insurance on file, they'll just verify that everything looks correct, and then you're going to start getting medical bills, and you're going to think, I never went to that emergency room, or I'm actually feeling really good right now. What is going on here? And then because of the HIPAA laws that protect the healthcare industry, it's incredibly difficult to go in and try and get security camera footage and try and piece together who actually did this. What else can they do? A lot of times they'll go in and open utility bills or cell phone bills under your name. They'll open credit cards in your name, and then a lot of times people are giving away names of individuals whose identities they've stolen when they get arrested. So you might get pulled over because you were going 5 over, but otherwise you have a really clean record. Cops run your history, you have a warrant out for your arrest all of a sudden, then you've never done anything wrong. It's because they gave your name away. And identity thieves, they don't care. A lot of them are addicts, not to be stereotypical, but a lot of them are addicts, and they're out of work, they get desperate, and so they're willing to do anything. You probably have heard the news stories of the ladies out in West Valley that ended up walking through countless neighborhoods, just stealing pieces of mail from everybody. And I think when the police found them, they ended up having 20,000 pieces of mail at their home with the intent to open credit cards under these different individuals' names. And some of the damage had already been done. Other people's were just unopened. They hadn't quite got to them yet. So it is a huge, huge problem. Be careful when you are paying medical bills online. A lot of times, and I've actually had 2 family members and a coworker that this happened to, the billing offices for a lot of the hospitals and doctors' offices are third-party agencies. they'd called in to make the payment, and the people working at the call centers have stolen their credit cards and gone and used them. I had a family member who, she has an Old Navy credit card, but you can use it anywhere. And she just thought, for whatever reason that day, she just felt like I should use the Old Navy credit card because it has a really low balance and they never use it for anything. She's grateful that she did, because when Old Navy called and said, hey, did you make a purchase in South Carolina? And she lives out here on the West Coast, and she said, no, actually I didn't. And they said, well, we think somebody stole your account. And Old Navy was able to stop the transactions, and then they went after the criminal. But when they started piecing together where did that information came from, they figured out it was that agency. So just be careful that way. Lots of things we can do to recognize it. I think a lot of it is just being very, very vigilant. You're going to want to check your bank statements. Some people check bank statements online every day. Other people, sometimes they'll check it. I would recommend checking it at least once a month, just to make sure that everything on there is actually yours as a couple. If you notice anything on there that doesn't look like yours or it is suspicious, call your bank immediately. Some banks are really good at following up, and they have like departments that will check for fraud and things like that. Others that are smaller don't necessarily have the resources to do it. So check your bank statements on a regular basis. I would encourage you, and I'll touch base with you near the end of the presentation on this, get a free copy of your credit report. You as consumers can get 3 free ones a year, one from each of the different agencies. So pull it every quarter and just make sure everything looks okay on there. I'm realizing, and I'll touch back on this, that some of the accounts that you have aren't necessarily going to be on all 3 accounts. I just pulled a credit report because it was April and it was my time to do it, and I was actually going to show my coworkers how you go in and pull them. And on the credit report, I pulled 2 of my credit cards that I've had for a very long time aren't on this agency's report, and I just thought, this is really crazy. And then I was like, okay, it doesn't matter. But there luckily was no accounts that weren't mine, so I wasn't too concerned about it. And then a lot of times, if you still get bills in the mail, if bills all of a sudden stop showing up, or bills are missing that you were expecting, you know something's amiss. Birthday cards are a huge thing that they'll steal, so if a family member sent you a birthday card and it didn't come up, clue in that maybe something is going on and someone has access to your mailbox. Like I mentioned, doctor's bills that aren't yours, and then problems filing your tax return. Last tax season, 2 of my friends, a brother and a sister, they went in to file their taxes 2 weeks apart. Obviously, they have the same last name, and their names and socials had been taken by a family, and they just assumed that because their last names were the same, these 2 people were married. And so female friend goes to file the return, and then her brother goes in 2 weeks later to file a return, and the IRS said, hey, your wife already filed. Like, what's going on? And he's like, no, I'm not married. I'm 21 years old. And they figured out that somebody had gone in and filed a fraudulent joint claim, and then it was a process of filing the police report, contacting the IRS, going to sit in the IRS office, and then going through the process with Federal Trade Commission. So it has been a headache, and it's taken them about a year to get everything fixed that way. How do they get your information? A lot of this you probably are aware of. Hacking. If you're paying for gas at the pump, check to make sure that feeder, the card feeder, is sitting flat and looks like it doesn't have any like damage or like screwdriver marks or anything on it. Some of the gas stations, actually I noticed in Brigham City and some of like the truck stops, they will go in and they'll put stickers or seals over the slots where they go in to add more receipt paper, just to reassure the customers that it's actually clean and nobody's tampered with it. My grandmother had her credit card number stolen from a gas station. She lives in northern Utah. The card was taken to California. They tried to buy $1,000 worth of fuel. Luckily, Chevron said, hey, looked at my grandma's date of birth and said, this lady's not taking any trips anytime soon. Called her, and they were able to reimburse or reverse those charges. But it happens in the most unlikely places. Vending machines now that have the credit card numbers on them, it's easy for somebody to go in after hours, put a card reader in those slots because nobody's looking. I'm like, oh, that guy just likes to go to the vending machine every night on the security cameras, and they're just putting card readers in to steal your stuff. Restaurants also, I'm not trying to make you guys paranoid. I want you to live happy lives, but you're going to be like, this lady's crazy. Restaurants now are a huge thing. When your servers take your cards, a lot of times they'll have a card reader on their cell phone, so they'll go process your transaction with the store's thing, and then they're swiping your card and taking that information home to use it there. So if you're thinking, do I want to pay with cash or credit? It's up to you. but I would encourage you not to use debit at a restaurant if you can avoid it, just because you have more protection with the credit card, and then cash, they take it and they can't do any damage with that. Fake charities, especially when there's natural disasters, are a huge thing. Usually the Red Cross and other reputable agencies are always saying, make sure that you check this. So if there's all of a sudden this new charity that pops up that tugs at your heartstrings, by all means, don't be uncharitable or unkind, but just due diligence in trying to figure out where they really are from. A lot of times you'll have scam artists come through posing as utility agents saying, hey, we need to verify your utility bills. Banks, utility companies, credit card companies, usually they're not going to call you. They're going to send you a letter or some kind of an email that's going to say, hey, reach out and call us at the number on the back of your card so we can verify the information. Phishing emails, and I'll show you 2 fraudulent emails that are designed to make it look like they're coming from you. Actually, my old employer, somebody mimicked the Outlook interface for that employer, sent out emails to the entire corporation, it was about 30,000 people, to try and get usernames and passwords. And actually, and unfortunately, about 2,000 employees thought it was really from the corporation. They were being diligent, making sure everything was up to date with their benefits, and all of their information got hacked. So just be cautious. If something's coming in from HR and you're like, this is a little fishy, exit out of that email, log into your corporation's user interface, or call HR, say, hey, did you guys really send this out? And be careful that way. And then offshore scams are huge. Usually they're like royalty scams. Somebody out of Europe or Asia or Africa says, hey, you're a relative of this, send us $500 through Western Union and your information, your address, your name, your date of birth, and then we're going to send you $2,000. We just want the $500 to secure it. You're sending that money, and the money never comes back. So just be cautious that way. Emails and online, kind of like I said before, is huge. Computer pop-ups, advertising, antivirus software are a lot of times a way to capture your material. So if you're wanting antivirus software on your computer, it's usually best if you go out and actually go to the website and get it yourself. And then just be aware and super cautious of phone calls or text messages and anything that looks suspicious. I have a lot of examples of identity theft. Maybe this is why I'm so crazy about it. But one of my coworkers actually, and she's in a supervisory role at the extension office, she started getting phone calls from the IRS saying she hadn't paid her taxes. And this woman is meticulous and articulate in every way. She probably files her taxes the first day you can in January. And so this was really suspicious to her. She ignored the calls. They ended up stopping. Well, this group ended up getting her husband's cell phone number. And the only people that have his cell phone number are his immediate family members and his company, because it's a work phone. So that scared him when that happened, and he called back and he tried to pry for some information. He ended up going down to the IRS office. He waited there for 2 hours and said, look, we're getting these phone calls at these times, these dates, this is what's happening. And the IRS said, I really hate to tell you this, but we don't have time to make personal phone calls, so it is a scam. And they were able to track it down, and they started noticing a lot of different fraud happening in the Salt Lake Valley related to the taxes. So just be cautious that way. These are sometimes, or just warning signs. They're really good, and they spend a lot of time programming their emails or their websites to look legitimate. And so you'll go in and it says Visa here, and you're thinking that's their official logo. This says HTTP, missing an S, which is kind of a clue in that it's not a secure site there, but they're saying Visa-secure here. And so they're going to try and make it look like an official website. A lot of times, they're not going to say or type in your name because this is going out to thousands of people. When I actually checked this, I have an online statement that comes from one of my credit cards, and it actually says, Dear Shauna. And I thought, oh, they've taken the time to personalize that, so that's a clue into me. And I know I get that statement every single month, but I'm not clicking on an email, I'm actually exiting out and going into the website and logging in myself. So they're going to say stuff like this. They really will push urgency on the phone and then on the email. If you fail to update your Visa card, it's going to be disabled. We're going to deactivate your account. So there's just a lot of little things to check for that way. And then confirm your account here, give us your information. They should never be asking you for a confirmation or anything like that. If it is suspicious, just hang up or delete the email and then reach out and call the number on the back of your card. Another one, and this poor Outlook, they really try and do a lot of good, but hackers really target them a lot just because they can reach a lot of people within different organizations. But this one is Your account will be deactivated, warning, no reply at hotmail.com. These are some clue-ins. And actually, when I was at work, when I got that email, I knew it didn't come from my corporation because our corporation ended in .org because it was a nonprofit. And it ended like, I won't tell you the corporation's name, but the name of the corporation, then .com. And I just thought something is amiss here. So just be cautious that way. Thank you, the Outlook Warning Member Service Team. Seems pretty fishy, not too official to me. But just be cautious that way. What do you do if you become a victim? There's a lot of things we're going to do. What do you do if you become a victim? And then we're going to talk about how can you prevent it. Because there's some steps you can take that way. This used to be a really cut, dry order. In doing my research and follow-up for this presentation over the last couple of weeks, every website tells you the order a little bit differently, but essentially all of these steps are important and critical. If you are a victim of identity theft, you're going to want to file a police report. A lot of times the police won't be able to do any of the legwork for you, but with that police report on file, you then have proof that you can take and show to different companies and different organizations, or when I need to go get a new driver's license and have my old one canceled, there's a police report saying my identity's been stolen. And so it's kind of a catalyst and it helps get the ball rolling. Change all of your account passwords first off. If you're technologically savvy, you might want to check to see if somebody hacked into your computer and maybe get a firewall or a legitimate antivirus site on there and try and clean off cookies and things like that. You're going to also, and I'll show you these websites at the end of the presentation, and then some of them I've put actually in here. You're going to want to go in and file a report on the Federal Trade Commission's website. I went in this morning to see what was this process actually like. Every time you go in to file this report, you can indicate or write about 5 incidents at the same time. And so you'll say, my card was stolen at the gas station, somebody stole a piece of mail, and there's something on my credit report that looks fishy. So you'll go through, and it walks you through. It is one of the most phenomenal websites I've ever seen as far as usability and user friendliness. And then you'll go in and it'll walk you through all the questions, and you can type your summaries, and then you can print all of the documentation that you're going to need if it ends up going to court, or documentation that you can give to the police as they're doing an investigation. And in the state of Utah, they have a task force as well. If you go to idtheft.utah.gov, and you can fill out a report there. When you fill out your report here at the website for Utah, that will automatically be submitted to the database, and an investigator is assigned your case. So it's kind of reassuring that somebody is out there and they're helping me. There's paperwork on there that you can fill out as well. And then reporting the fraud. Besides filing all of those reports, so with Federal Trade Commission, the State Department of Utah, and then also with, I just lost it, with the police, kind of a big deal, sorry. Contact your bank and your credit card companies. If you're worried about utilities, you might call and have them transferred to the name of a spouse if they were under your name, or you might just call and say, can I get a new account number assigned? And I legitimately am at this house. Will you stop any other bills or charges that are going out? And then if you're wanting to, on your credit reports, if you become a victim of identity theft and you have a copy of your police report, you can go in and you can place alerts on your credit reports for free. If you don't have a police report and you haven't officially been the victim of identity theft, you can still go in and file some of these reports, and I'll talk to you about the freezes. They'll just charge you $10 to do it. But if you become a victim of the fraud, they'll let you put these on free of charge. The initial alert is just a fraud alert. It's going to stay on 90 days, and that's an indication. You're telling future creditors or potential creditors that you feel like your identity has been compromised. With that alert on there, they're supposed to do a little bit extra diligence and checking before they issue the credit to you. They should be making a phone call, or they should be putting that account on hold and waiting a couple of days until they can reach or contact you in some form. This is really cool because you're already going to have to file a ton of paperwork, and your head's going to be ringing, I'm sure. But if you file one fraud alert with either TransUnion, Equifax, or Experian, they'll reach out and contact the other 3 bureaus, or there are 2 bureaus, so you don't. It's one less step you have to do. The security freeze is something that you can go in as a victim of identity theft. You can place that on your report. If you're trying to prevent and protect, and you don't foresee in the near future that you need to apply for credit anywhere, you can actually go into TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian and place freezes on your credit. What this does, and the whole purpose behind this is it's designed to protect you so that if somebody gets your social security number, your address, and your name, when they go in to apply for that credit, the bureaus are supposed to contact you in person or over the phone and verify several pieces of information with you. Credit bureaus will have phone numbers that you report when you apply for credit, a home loan, a car loan, a visa. I just pulled my credit report and it had my last 3 cell phone numbers on there. And those are the only cell phone numbers I've ever had. And I was like, hey, I forgot what my number even was. Obviously, it doesn't matter because I don't have it, but the bureaus have that on file for me. And I thought that was kind of cool. But they should be calling you. It is $10 for each agency if you're needing to apply for credit with a landlord or a car loan or something like that. If you're already doing business with a company that you have accounts with, let's say you just adore your credit union and you want to get your personal loan there or your auto loan through them. Because they already have your information, they can go in and check everything with you and issue you that, and you don't have to lift the credit freeze for them, which is fantastic because it's not going to cost you $10. If you have the freeze on there and it's a new landlord and they need to pull your credit, ask them, which bureau do you use? And then just give me a day. I'm going to put a temporary lift on my lift the freeze is what they call it. They'll go in and run the credit, and then the freeze will automatically go back down on the day you choose. I did this, and my landlord said, they're going to check this credit report. I just went in with my passcode, said, great, lift my freeze for 2 days. And I told her, I said, you've got to get that in within 2 days because that's all I'm giving you time for. And then it's going to lock back down again. And she did it that day. And it was $10 to me to put it on. It was $10 to lift it. I'm not applying for a lot of credit. And to me, it's worth it just to have that peace of mind that if someone's trying to get my information, then I've been contacted.
So anybody can do this? It's not for...
Anyone can do the freeze. My coworkers think I'm crazy, but I just think, you know what? If it saves or prevents something from happening, this isn't going to protect me against tax fraud, unfortunately. But if it can prevent accounts from being opened in my name, to me, it's worth it. It's worth it to me. But anybody can go in and you'll just go right to their websites. And I can show you those websites at the end of the presentation. And it's a super easy process. I actually did it at work for an experiment and it took me about 15 minutes. So very easy, very user-friendly. If you want to talk to them in person on the phone, they do have numbers available, but I just did everything automated. I want to kind of just show you this introduction to the identitytheft.gov website.
In today's connected world, personal information sometimes falls into the wrong hands, and that can lead to identity theft. It might start with an unfamiliar charge on your credit card. A business might not accept your check, or a debt collector might call you about a bill that isn't yours. You're not alone. Identity theft can happen to anyone. Stay calm. Visit identitytheft.gov to report it and get a personal recovery plan. Identitytheft.gov helps you create an identity theft report. This report proves to businesses that someone stole your identity and makes it easier to fix problems caused by identity theft. To create an identity theft report, you can file a complaint with the Federal Trade Commission and with your local police department. IdentityTheft.gov guides you through each step of the recovery process. You can generate the letters and forms you need, track your progress, and keep detailed records of people you've talked to. No matter what your identity theft situation is, IdentityTheft.gov can help, because recovering from identity theft is easier with a plan.
So that's kind of just an introduction to what they'll do, and then we'll go through some of the slides. So they said they can help you with a recovery plan regardless of what the problem was. One of the biggest things that's happening is data breaches. So you guard your information, you have a shredder, you have your lockbox, and you're making sure that nobody's getting your information because you don't ever give it out over the phone, but you've given your information to the hospital, or you've given your information to the state. Utah, their system, if you remember a couple of years ago, got hacked into. Thousands and thousands of people's information was compromised. Up at the University of Utah, and this was really interesting, they got hacked. Somebody had left a laptop in a computer, an employee did. It wasn't secured properly, somebody stole it, and they were concerned that thousands of patients' information was on there. Well, as a child, I'm thinking, oh great, I never used the University of Utah, forgetting that I'd had 3 surgeries there as a child. So sure enough, a few weeks later, we get a letter in the mail addressed to Shauna saying your information has been compromised at the U, and I thought, that's absurd. I never had anything there. And my mom's like, actually you did. And so they paid for credit monitoring for 1.5 years. And so usually when there's a data breach or something happens, if the company contacts you and they don't offer to pay for a service free of charge, as a consumer, I would be on that phone with them saying, what are you going to do to fix this? Or what are you going to do to make this right? They obviously can't take back the information that was lost, but they can provide for a credit monitoring service or something like that, so you're contacted. And then identitytheft.gov, this is the website that the federal government has put together. So you're going to go in, tell them what happened. You'll click on it, it's going to walk you through. They're going to give you this recovery plan, which is a to-do list specific to your situation. So every type of incident you put on there, there's going to be different steps that you need to take. And then you're going to go in and put your plan into action. They have free help available. They're going to get you the recovery plan. You'll create your affidavit just right online. And if I were to give you an affidavit sheet and say start writing, I don't know if you've ever had to fill out a police report. It's a little bit daunting. But the affidavit there gives you 5 questions, and you just go through and you type it in, and it's pretty slick. And I hope you never have to use this information, but just in case. And then they have letters you can send to your creditors. If credit card was a problem, if the collection account is on your credit report and you are always on time and that's not your problem, that's going to be on there. You can fill that out. And then they're also going to give you specific recommendations or advice. To prevent fraud from happening, or to actually pick up the pieces, just make sure you notify your creditors. Because of the Fair Credit Billing Act, and this is why people always say we have more protection with credit cards, but a lot of times we're hesitant to use credit cards because we don't want to fall into a debt cycle, or we don't want to get spending out of control. But because of this act, it means that you're only responsible for 50 charges of unauthorized charges at most. Usually now, credit card companies will offer identity theft protection, and you won't be responsible for anything if you call them that night or as soon as you realize what happened. Some banks and credit unions are a lot better now than they used to be. The hard thing is with your debit card, you might have automatic bills coming out, mortgage, rent, like your family's using that account to stay alive and survive. If they drain all that money in your account, these other bills are going to fall due, and then you've got to go in and prove to the credit union that I wasn't the irresponsible one. I did not go buy 3 Xboxes at Walmart. And so it does take a little bit more time to get your debit card information picked up and get those pieces cleared. How can you protect yourself? I try not to scare you, but I was sharing all these horror stories. So shred your documents with all your personal information. Be aware of your payment due dates, and make sure if it's automatic payments or automated that you're watching just to make sure that the payment actually went out. Something a little bit scary happened actually this week. A coworker had purchased something for me, and I don't use checks anymore because I don't. And I said, well, do you want cash or do you want me to do a bill pay through the credit union? And she said, why don't you do a bill pay through the credit union? We'll just transfer the funds when we get them and go to the bank. Well, I sent the bill pay out the first of the month. Usually with my credit union, it takes 3 to 5 days to get there at most. And I kept saying, do you have the check yet? Do you have the check yet? Do you have the check yet? Because the amount was debited from my account. She came to me 2 days ago and she said, Shauna, I never got the money. I thought, you're kidding. And I said, well, you don't have a mailbox? And she said, well, we have a mailbox, but it's locked. Only the postman has access to it. So somehow my bill pay got lost in the mail. We have no idea where it is. We don't know if when the mailman was putting it in, maybe the check fell out. Like anything really could have happened. This check is just missing. And so I was able to go in and stop and cancel the check and then get the money. And I ended up giving her cash, even though she didn't want it initially. But just be aware and stay in contact with people if you have bills and things coming. Check your credit card statements often if you have them and just figure out what charges were yours. Read your health insurance plan statements. A lot of times you can access, they call them explanation of benefits or services. You can go right online and read those on there just to make sure, yes, is that actually the service that I had? And being diligent in that also makes sure you're being billed for the proper things, because healthcare billing is kind of confusing. And then just review each of your credit reports once a year, and I'm going to keep on talking about that and reiterating that. Lock up your important papers. Important papers are going to be anything with information that can be used to compromise or be used against you. And then make sure that you report lost or stolen cards, driver's licenses, and never ever carry your Social Security cards in your wallets. And if you don't have it memorized, or you're signing up for benefits or something at work and you need them because you started a new job, take them that day, and then as soon as you get home, take them back, and never leave them in the car. Unfortunately, a lot of people think that they're being very diligent, and they don't want to take their person to an event. So when they get to the event, they're going to put that purse in the trunk because it's safe in the trunk. Well, a lot of thieves are just watching that parking lot to see what ladies left their purses in the car. They'll smash your window, pop the trunk, take your purse, and be gone before the event's over. A coworker, actually, her daughter and 4 of her daughter's friends had their purses stolen from a concert in downtown. And 3 of those girls had just graduated from high school, had just got hired at new jobs, had all of their tax information, Social Security information, and some information about their parents in those purses, and they are still picking up pieces, and this happened about 3 years ago. And then don't give out any information just over the phone. Protecting your children. And I'm going to pop out of the presentation and go in and actually show you this website. So if you want to protect your children's identity in the state of Utah, and I keep talking about the state of Utah because this is where we live, and every state has different rules that govern and protect their residents through identity theft. Up here on the tool menu, there's resources, the law, scams, alerts, and videos. And then over here, if you're needing to report identity theft, that's where you're going to click to do that. And it's the IRIS website, and it says, welcome to IRIS, this is what you're agreeing to do. And it says, if you file an IRIS report, the state wants to ensure, because they're assigning an investigator to your case, that you are going to stick with this through and through, and that if you have to go to court to testify, that you are willing to do that. Because they don't want to spend hundreds of hours investigating and finding a crook when you say, oh, I don't want to press charges. And they're like, well, if you don't want to press charges, we don't have a case. So actually what you're agreeing to is you're going to work with law enforcement and do everything in your power. So what you'll do is you'll go in, if you agree to that, you'll click this statement. As soon as you click that statement, it goes green, and then you can go through here and pick countless things or potential fraud things. You'll go in, click on those, email phishing scam, you'll click on it, the drop-down menu comes up, it will tell you all about it, and then you can go through and read it, and then they're giving you some information for each of the bureaus, telling you what you can do, and then you can click here and report the actual fraud. So it's a pretty slick website. And then the child identity protection. What you're going to do here is, it's the CIP program. So you're going to read that statement, and it says, great, get started. They're saying that you can put children's socials on here up until their 17th birthday. You'll go in, you'll put it in there. Traditionally, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian are never creating credit reports intentionally for children under 18. Usually what's happening is that child's name and social are being used with a false birthday, and because they're new in the system, the credit bureaus don't know, or it's not flagged as fraud until a parent or the child in 18 years goes in to find it. So what you'll do is you can go in and get started there, and it's telling you, as a parent or guardian, you're going to have to submit some information just to prove to the Attorney General's office that you are who you say you are. So driver's license information, your name, street address, and then you're going to go in and say, I'm submitting this form. I realize if I'm doing this fraudulently, it's punishable up to 6 months in jail or a fine of $1,000. You're going to verify your identity, and then you're going to go in and just enter your child's information. Puts it in that database so that if it's in that database, identity thieves are not supposed to be allowed. It's supposed to lock down that social so nothing can be opened in their name. Just a pretty slick process. We'll come back in, and so these are just kind of some general notes on it, but you just verify that you're the parent or guardian, you enter your child's information, you submit it. Because I don't have a child to enter in, and I'm not going to create a false one. Like lots of times I'll go in and just play with things, but I couldn't in this situation. But from what I could tell, it usually only takes about 15 to 20 minutes, so it's a pretty slick process. And then another thing that you can do is you can go in and you can contact all 3 credit bureaus or agencies. I use the term interchangeably, but you can contact TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian and just say, this is my child, they are a child, I don't want anything opened in their names, and they'll put accounts or create an account and put an alert on there for you. And then file a police report if you need to, if your child's identity has been compromised. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau was actually created after the economy crashed and all of the housing market fraud and things. CFPB has a lot of great resources. It's consumerfinance.gov, and that's actually a lot of the material back there is from FINRA or from the CFPB. And I love CFPB's information because it's not overwhelming. I like finances and I like detail, so I could pick up a brochure and be quite entertained for hours. But the average person is going to be like, my life just got dumped on its head. I don't have time to read all of this. Give me my points, my key points, what I need to do. And they provide that information so clearly and so simply. And you can actually file identity theft complaints and alerts with them. If they get enough alerts about a similar situation, they'll actually send out investigators as well. And so you might feel foolish because you think, I got taken advantage of. But go in there, file your alert, because if they get enough of those complaints, they're going to be able to conduct an investigation and figure out what truly is happening and protect consumers in the future. And then if you're wanting to file reports with the credit bureaus, you're going to have to actually mail in the forms. For your child, they're going to need the legal name, a copy of the birth certificate and social, and then they're going to need a copy of your driver's license with a utility bill or something actually verifying your address. And they do that just to protect, because damage has probably already been done, and they just want to make sure that you're actually who you say you are. So a little bit of a hassle, but if identity theft happened, it's worth it. And then watch your credit. Have you guys ever pulled a free copy of your credit report? Okay. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that, but you can go in and just like I said, check it 3 times a year. You can put a fraud alert on there if you need to. There's a lot of websites that offer you your credit reports. The only site that's ever been authorized by the government when this law changed and they started issuing these 3 reports a year to the consumers is actually annualcreditreport.com. And then this is their phone number, and you can also send them a request letter. So you can do all 3, computer, phone, or address. Annualcreditreport.com, and I will go in and show you the website just so it looks familiar to you. But this, I love this. This was on there today, and it said, don't be fooled by lookalikes. Because there's a lot of companies that say, get your free copy of your credit report here, which is true. They'll give you that report, but at the same time, they're going to try and get you to put in a debit or a credit card information. And then they're going to give you that free report, and then in the fine print, it's going to say in 30 days, we'll charge your credit, or we'll charge your account. Or you're signing up for a year-long contract for credit monitoring service, and you're just excited you got your free report, not realizing what's in the fine print. So annualcreditreport.com is never going to charge you. It's funny when you go in and actually request a report, it will pull up an invoice and it will say your free report is $0. And so you're just like, okay, sweet. They're just verifying that for you. And then these are the agencies. So Equifax, this is their logo. That's Experian's logo. And TransUnion went through a rebranding a couple of years ago, so this is what it looks like now. These are the actual websites if you're needing to go in and report fraud. So Equifax.com, TransUnion.com is going to get you to their main website, and there's tons of information there. But if you're really concerned about fraud, just do that / and go right to the fraud. And we can click on and I can show you these websites if you're interested. And then these are other just helpful websites. IRS.gov, the IRS, because they realize identity theft is so huge right now with taxes, they're trying to take steps and come up with kind of some procedures that they can put in place to protect taxpayers. And then the idtheft.utah.gov website, OnGuardOnline.gov is another website, and then identitytheft.gov. And that is kind of the end of the presentation. I want to go in and just show you a couple of these websites. Equifax. So all 3 bureaus will allow you to file the credit freeze, so you can lock it down. If your identity's been stolen, Equifax actually has an extended fraud alert that they'll allow you to put on free of charge for 7 years. So instead of just doing the 90-day thing, you can fill out this form with Equifax, and they'll put that alert on your account as well. TransUnion and Experian have different credit monitoring and fraud things in place, but this one was available through Equifax, and there's the sheet if you need it. I'll go through and I'll show you some of these websites and then answer any questions that you have. This is the identitytheft.gov website. So for that little video we showed you, it just says get started here. You can click in. When you've actually gone in and reported, you're going to create an account. So it'll remember. So the first time it's a little bit treacherous and drudgery, and you're going in there and it's tedious and taking up a lot of time. But you can go in and create that account so you can log in every time. You're not having to go and put the same information in. But you'll go through here and you say, someone else filed my tax return, my information was exposed in a data breach, I want to report identity theft, and you'll click on that, and then you can click all of these different choices, and it will just walk you through. And I actually took it to where I could go in and start filing my report today, and then I stopped because I was just practicing. But that's there and available that way. Annualcreditreport.com's website. And pulling your free reports is your own personal style. I like to space them out over the year just for like identity theft, just to kind of monitor things. You might decide, you know what, I'm really proud of myself that I remembered to do this year, and I'm going to order all 3 in May. And that's fine. And then just put on a calendar or in your phone, next May I can start ordering them again. If you've become the victim of identity theft, you are actually, as a consumer, entitled to a free copy of your report from each of the bureaus. And that's where that police report comes in handy as well, because you can call them and say, hey, my identity got stolen, I need another copy of my free report, and they'll send that out to you. So if you're coming in here, they have lots of different things. Spot identity theft, a lot of consumer education and things is available. If you're wanting the report, you're just going to click on request your free report. It's a 3-step process. And then you'll click here, request your reports. You're going to go in and put your name in there. You're going to choose which report you want, and then you're going to request and review the actual report. You can save your report as a PDF, or you can print it. When you go in and file the reports, and you probably already know this, just to verify your identity in this steps in between 2 and 3, they are going to ask you 4 questions. And it's going to be questions about, did you ever live on a street named Elm Grove? Or in what city did you live in this year? If you had credit open at that time, that's kind of how they can track it. Don't ever feel bad if you're looking at the question and legitimately the answers are wrong, because none of the above is always a choice, and a lot of times they're just trying to trick a potential identity thief. So you'll put none of the above onto your next question, and that report will pop right up. So just be aware of that.
So if you froze your account, will it still give you?
Yes. Yeah, actually, and that's why I did that last week, because I was like, I'm going to teach these people that they can freeze their accounts, and then I'm going to go tell them to get their free reports. If you're the one that has froze your account, you can still receive your 3 free reports from here. And it will show up on the inquiry. At the end of each credit report, they have something called inquiries, and that's who has pulled or requested your report. And so here, so on here, you can see on my actual report, the regular inquiries. This is when I actually went in and applied for credit. This is the agency, the renters agency, who pulled my credit last summer. And then you'll go on to the next side, and it says account review, so you can see who do I do business with. And then credit report services, and here, this inquiry right here is when I had gone in to like check on something, and it will usually come up and show you, oh, you're the one that requested this report with your name and date on there. So my account is frozen, but you can still go in and grab the report there. Like I said, if your account is frozen, your credit is frozen, but you're doing business already with a company, you can still apply for credit with them, because it doesn't prevent current businesses that you have accounts with from going in and checking your credit. It just prevents new accounts from getting opened without you being contacted first. I think, to me, it's worth it, especially just because I know so many people that have had their identities stolen or things have been breached in the past. So credit monitoring services. As a former financial counselor, we would always advise people, if you are a diligent consumer, it's typically not worth the cost, because they're not actually preventing fraud. They're just calling you and saying, we think fraud might have happened. And so if you're putting a freeze on your report because you don't need to apply for credit, and then you pull your 3 free reports a year and you're diligent in checking your credit, usually those are sufficient steps to protect yourself. If for your own peace of mind, you like that somebody is on every single day because you don't have time for it, it doesn't interest you, and to you it's easier to have them look at it and say, hey, we think there's been a breach, we need you to take these steps, then yes, it's worth it to you. And so you just have to sit down as a family and decide. I feel like most consumers with just a little bit of due diligence can protect themselves okay. Especially if you're willing to do a fraud or a freeze because you don't need credit. And to do the freezes with all three places is $30, so $10 for each bureau at Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, whereas a monitoring service might be $10 to $30 a month. So it really is just up to you. But in the past, the services they were offering, to me and to the agency that I worked for as a financial counselor, it wasn't worth it to recommend that people went and did that. Identity theft insurance sometimes is a benefit that companies will offer you, or you'll hear about it online, or just on TV commercials or whatever. In the past, they would say, buy the identity theft insurance and we'll protect you up to $50,000. Well, they were actually never giving that $50,000 to the consumers because they said, oh, well, there's a glitch here, or it says, if you know who the identity thief was, then we'll pay on it. So they were putting loopholes and things in there. So it also seemed maybe a little bit dishonest, or maybe not so much dishonest, just that consumers got taken advantage of because they didn't read the fine print. They may have changed and they might be a little bit more honest now, but in the past, that's just kind of how it ran. And one of them actually came to the agency I worked for, and my supervisors, it was literally like a verbal firing squad because this lady was trying to sell her product, and they kept saying, well, TransUnion can do this, and Equifax can do this, and if you just go in and do this as a consumer, then this, and this happens. And the lady didn't know how to respond because of the barrage of questions, and she said, okay, well, maybe you guys don't actually need this. But check into it if it makes you feel comfortable.
To learn more or to find a class, visit slcolibrary.org/smartinvesting.